The Climate Prediction Center, which is an office of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the United States, has released their latest ENSO forecast this past January 12th. What does it mean for the La Nina that we've had in the winter so far? And what does it mean for Japan's winter going forward? All this and more in this Soracast special ENSO update, January 2026. Since this past autumn, the general consensus has been that a La Nina has been present in the southern Pacific Ocean, but it was never a strong phenomenon, and observers suggested that it would fade as the northern hemisphere moved into the latter half of winter. Well, let's backtrack a little. What is ENSO and what does it mean to La Nina? Well, let's refresh ourselves a little bit about what La Nina and El Nino are. The El Nino and La Nina are driven by the ENSO, the El Niño-Southern Oscillation. This is the mechanism which drives these two weather phenomena in the South Pacific. The ENSO has three states, or phases, if you will. Number one is El Nino, which is a warming of the ocean surface or above average sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. Number two is La Nina, which is the opposite number here. It is a cooling of the ocean surface or below average sea surface temperatures in the same area, the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. The third state is neutral, where neither an El Nino or La Nina is present. Often, tropical Pacific sea surface temperatures are generally close to average, and neutral is more or less the default. But for La Nina or El Nino to happen, it's not just the sea surface temperatures at play here. The atmosphere also has to cooperate too in order to get a true El Nino or La Nina phenomenon going. Okay, so to measure such a large area of the Earth's surface, the tropical Pacific Ocean is broken up into four main areas to measure where the ENSO is doing. From east to west, they are Niño 1+2, Niño 3, Niño 4, and a combined area called Niño 3.4. Okay, now that we're all caught up on that piece, let's see what's happening with the La Nina now. So, going back to earlier this autumn, there was a combined cooling in these areas, and a weak La Nina has persisted for most of the winter. These four areas still do show an overall trend below the normal sea surface temperature. However, recently a new trend is beginning to form, and it is now obvious that this lower temperature trend is weakening and warmer water temperatures are moving in from the western South Pacific. This La Nina that we had this past winter has been weak historically. To get a decent La Nina, you need a good solid 0.5 degrees below normal overall anomaly across 3 months of a 3-month rolling average. The last real solid La Nina we had that met that criteria was during the winter of 2022 to 2023. This current La Nina just has not had that kind of strength. So we do have several charts to back this up, and perhaps the easiest way to see this is by checking the subsurface temperature anomaly chart right here. This chart simply shows water temperature and differences from normal at certain depths. Since November, you can see here, warmer water than normal has crept to the east, moving from around 170 degrees west to about 120 degrees west. That is toward the American continent. The upper ocean heat anomaly chart, which measures degrees of variance across time, also is showing that warm water is creeping westward. Actually, this chart is a little complex, so let's break it down really quick. This chart measures the temperatures of the sea against time. On the x-axis here in the up and down area is time, going from February 25th to January 2026. On the y-axis, That's the left to right part. That measures longitude across the Earth. The upshot of this chart is that it shows that since November, warmer ocean water is creeping eastward. Again, this is evidence that the La Nina that we had this winter was weak to start with, and it is on its way out. Well, as we noted a couple of minutes ago, current sea surface temperatures are still a little lower than normal, but they are trending up. Now, we can compare the sea surface temperature anomaly map from October 1st with the most recent one on December 31st. And you can see here again, this just supports what we're saying, that warmer water is indeed moving eastward, pushing cooler water over toward South America. The JMA here also concurs with the assessment that La Nina is on its way out, with their data showing movement from La Nina to more of an ENSO neutral state through the spring. Update 400 from the JMA, dated on January 9th of this year, says that the La Nina is expected to dissipate soon, and although there is a chance that El Nino will form later, neutral conditions are more likely to persist. And that appears to be the consensus among major global meteorological organizations. Summing pretty much everything up, NOAA believes that the La Nina probabilities will continue to decline through the rest of the winter, while a neutral state is more likely to be dominant in spring and early summer. Projecting out pretty far, though, early projections are suggesting a return to El Nino by late summer. So, what does an ENSO neutral state mean for the remainder of Japan's winter going on into early spring? So, we can list them here. Number one, milder temperatures. Well, as the cooling influence of La Nina wanes, temperatures will deviate a little more from seasonal averages. Actually, we've kind of seen that with this weak La Nina. Despite the winter storms in Hokuriku, Tohoku, and Hokkaido recently, we have had overall in Japan a warmer than normal winter. Next month in February, there is a likelihood of hitting more spring like, milder conditions as warmer systems develop and arrive earlier than usual, especially down in southern Japan. Number two, reduced snowfall intensity. The early winter trend of frequent cold air outbreaks and heavy snowfall on the Sea of Japan side may weaken as neutral conditions begin to take hold. I am actually on the fence on this one here. My personal thought is that an ENSO neutral cycle will not have a significant immediate effect on snowfall because it does take time for the new cycle to begin to influence weather on a day-to-day basis. But it could decrease snowfall as the late season begins. Number three, increased volatility. Well, this is a textbook effect, but this winter has been pretty volatile in its own right, especially over the past couple weeks. During ENSO neutral phases, however, Japan's weather is less influenced by these large tropical Pacific cycles and more by regional drivers like the Arctic Oscillation and the Siberian High. This is the Western High, Eastern Low that we mentioned in the previous Sortocast episode. Again, this La Nina has been weak, and we have had numerous regional systems control our local weather this winter. A stronger ENSO neutral phase can lead to intermittent heavy dumps of snow, followed by rapid warming spells and rain. And then number four, lingering atmospheric effects. Well, okay, the ENSO is a lagging indicator, as I mentioned just a little while ago, meaning that it takes something on the order of a couple months for a certain phase to start to dominate weather patterns. Despite the ocean transitioning to a neutral state here, atmospheric patterns may exhibit more weak La Nina-like characteristics, such as slightly cooler air through around March 2026 due to a time lag in the climate system. So that's the wrap up and quick capsule of how an ENSO neutral state will affect Japan's weather for the remainder of the winter and into early spring. Now, the ocean is still churning along. We are not going to stop our coverage just because it becomes spring. We will continue to monitor ENSO throughout the spring, summer, and on into next winter here at Sortacast. And remember, if you like weather and science-related content coming out of Japan, you know what to do. Mash that like and subscribe button, stoink it if you will. It really helps us out here. And we will see you on the next Sortacast. You guys take care. Have a good one. Peace out.